Okay, just another quickie. I've had a look at the injectors, got all the injectors out. I mean, I did clean them up a bit and wash them off before I put them in. What I've done, I haven't got the facilities to sort of make a big test rig, and I don't see the point because I'm not reusing them. I'm going to put new ones in anyway. But what I did was sort of tip them upside down and put some, can you see that? Yeah, put some brake cleaner in the top. Well, not brake cleaner, WD-40 in the top, and just wipe it off so it's level. And then I put my air blower underneath and just sort of held it on. I turned the pressure up on my compressor and blew it gradually until it opened. And basically, none of these, with my compressor turned up, I don't know what PSI it comes out at the end of the thing, but none of these would open at all. This one opened really easy. I didn't even need to hold it on the, I didn't even need to force it on the sort of air blower. I sort of just held it on top of it and blew it, and it opened straight away. These two took a little bit more force, so out of all of them, only three of them open easier. So I'm assuming I probably got 3 bad injectors, because I can't see there, or if they were bad and not opening, it wouldn't flood itself. It would have less fuel. It wouldn't even run. So I've got a feeling they were probably okay. And these 3, and particularly that one, they're sort of not holding. They're opening with not much pressure. So that would mean that even if the metering head was right, and the pressure was set right, if these are weak, these could still be spraying and relieving the pressure in the pump. When you turn the ignition on, they could be spraying when they shouldn't do. Or when there's like residual pressure in the system, because there is obviously going to be a bit of pressure against them when the throttle's not out, when the distributor's not moved to pump it, to squirt it out. And if they're only opening really easily, then when the flap opens and you get a surge of fuel down, and which is what it does, it squirts fuel down all of them. When you take when it lifts back up and cuts off, they would probably close, but they might not close straight away. So you'd be getting extra fuel in all the time. And as well, when it was ticking over, and they were at a certain pressure being pumped, by the metering head, they would open. I would imagine if they were right, they would open less than they would, because they're opening easier with blowing. So they would probably be chucking more fuel in than they should do. And then when you accelerate, they probably would as well. So like mid-range, they'd probably be opening all the way. So that would explain it, sort of thing. I'm still going to rebuild the metering head, just because I don't want to mess about anymore. I'd rather just take that apart and know that's okay. It could well be I'd get away with just replacing the injectors, but I don't want to sort of put it all back together and then test it and then have to take it all apart again. While it's the bits, I may as well take the metering head off and do that, and then I've at least eliminated that from the system. So yeah, that might have been my issue. It was kind of had a feeling it because when it was revving up, it did sound sort of like all cylinders were firing. It was more when you was ticking over. So when you're ticking over, these 3 are chucking double the amount of fuel in they should do. It would soon flood sort of those 3, and then it probably wouldn't tick. With only on 5, depending on which ones it was, it probably wouldn't tick over. It probably would cut out. I don't know with the air cooled stuff. They can run on sort of 2 and a bit and they'll keep going, but with a V8 it's probably different. If they were all on one side or whatever, or if they're evenly spaced, it's hard to tell. But yeah, just sort of share that. I mean, I know you can sort of put a union on and a pressure and a pressure gauge and see what sort of stage they open at and whatever, but I mean, I suppose that's really if you're going to try and reuse them and keep them, but for the cost I don't see the point. I managed to get some better injectors. The injectors I got were Mercedes ones. If you Google it, it comes up, alternative sort of to 928 ones. I'll show you the part number. Yeah, so 0437502 they're sort of Mercedes ones. They're sort of an alternative, and they are shorter, I believe, quite a bit shorter, so they don't really stick into the manifold as much. But apparently, quite a few people said they use them and they've been fine. I suppose the spray pattern is further up, so I don't see as it makes a lot of difference, because if it's sucking, it's gonna, I suppose that's more direct if it's deeper in the manifold. But I've read up and people say they work and they're fine, and they're basically half the price. The cheapest I could find these was about 39 quid each. The Mercedes ones, which are Bosch brand new, genuine Bosch ones, they're 20. I think if I bought 7, it was just under 20 quid, and then I had to buy one extra because they only did like a bulk of 7. But so I think it was about 160, 70 quid instead of like 300 and odd quid for a set. So it's kind of, makes sense. An injector's an injector, as long as it's putting the fuel in. If it's a bit shorter, I don't see as it makes a vast amount of difference. It's still going in the same direction, at the same angle, same hole. If anything, it would pick up more velocity, I suppose, because it's further back. I don't know. I mean, I imagine Porsche obviously make them a certain length for a certain reason, but, time is money, and money is money, If I can save 150 quid or whatever, it's well worth doing, because that can be spent on something else. Because, the way this thing's going, I'm throwing money at it left, right and centre, but I ain't going to give up. I'm going to get it driving and running by hook or by crook. If I have to take the old engine out and take it to bits to start again, I'll still do it. I'm not going to be beaten by it. I'm going to be driving this, no doubt about it. Like I said before, when I first sort of bought it, I was considering putting something else in it. So putting another engine in it, putting a BMW V8 or something like that in it. But that, obviously there's a lot more work involved in that and whatever. I have seen quite a few cheap the Jaguars with a 4.4 litre supercharged engine with a V8, and them cars are when they're rotten, they're quite cheap, and I think them engines, I reckon it'd go in. I don't think it's any wider than that. And obviously got the electrics to sort out and stuff, but that would be a bit of a beast, 4 litre supercharged in it. But we'll see. Hopefully this baby's okay. Right, I'm waffling on a bit. It's time to go home. My bits should be here Thursday, Friday, so hopefully this weekend I'll get it put together. But I have also got to put a turbo on my friend's car, my son-in-law's car, which I'm not looking forward to doing on an Audi, so I might end up doing that on Sunday. But yeah, we I keep saying we're getting there, but we're going in the right direction. I may have sort of took the long route instead of going direct and replacing everything. There's a very good guy, I can't remember his name, who does a lot of videos. He's got a white 928, and he's basically done everything, and he's like replacing everything as he goes along. And I've not watched all his videos, but I'm assuming when it's done, he's been through everything. Everything's replaced and painted up and whatever. So hats off to him. But I'm not sort of in that frame of mind, and I'm not got that kind of budget really. I'm just trying to do it on a budget, but do it properly. I'm not going to throw money away, but I want it to be right. So if I have to buy new things, I'll buy new things. But yeah, I've ordered a new cap as well, reservoir cap, because when I've been turning it over, at one point there's a bit of pressure in it, and I don't think it's a gasket or anything. I think it's because the thermostat's not open and I'm wanging it over, and it's probably had air trapped in it, and I don't think the cap is relieving the pressure like it should do. So I've ordered a new cap, which could have been the problem what knackered it up in the first place, because I think the cap's meant to, once it gets over a certain pressure, if there's pressure in there, the cap's meant to relieve it. And so if that's not been working, but it's only when it was running it seemed to be fine and go up to temperature and didn't overheat or anything like that. But I think it's probably because I was turning it over loads, and the thermostat's not open and the cap's not breathing, and there's pressure in the system because there's probably still air in it. But yeah, so subscribe, give me some likes, tell me what I'm doing wrong, tell me what you're doing. Always interested to hear what other people are doing and what projects they've got and what stage they're at. All a learning curve. I'm quite enjoying it though. I can honestly say out of all the different cars I've worked on, I quite like this. It's quite, it goes together and comes apart, right? There's some quirky bits with it, but you can tell it's a German car, you know, an old German classic car. It kind of goes together and comes apart as you should, and there's, you know, it's logic to how it's put together. Modern cars, there's bits you've got to take off for no reason. They're just, the people who make them don't care about who's repairing them. But this has been sort of made so it can be repaired, and, you know, obviously you can't take the heads off properly with it in, but I ain't doing that anyway. I'd rather take it out, but if I had to do it again. I think that was the right decision to take the engine out to do everything. I could have possibly just got away with just doing the head gaskets, because the bottom end, there wasn't really anything wrong with the bottom end at all. I have noticed the sump gasket seems damp, seems to be leaking a little bit, but I did put a bit of sealer on it and tighten it up, as people said, nice and evenly, and didn't do it ridiculously tight. But when I've come to some of the bolts, you can tighten them up more, quite easily. So I think it's a case of the cork gasket compressing. You know, when it gets a bit moisture in it or whatever, it compresses, and so I'm going to keep nipping it up a little bit and go around it. I know you've got to be careful, you don't want to distort it too much. If it becomes a real problem, what I might consider doing is taking it off. I know you've got to drop the subframe and whatever to get to it. Dropping it off, taking the gasket out and just putting it in with a really high quality gasket sealant. Like a lot of modern cars, they're just metal on metal and they just have sealer. A friend of mine does a lot of timing chains, and he puts this particular sealer, I can't remember the name, on the timing chain covers, and it's brilliant. It doesn't, you know, you never get no leaks or whatever. Whether you've got the clearance to lift the sump up, you know, it's probably 5 or 6 mil, the thickness of the gasket, you probably have. The only issue I could see is if the pickup pipe was too low, but I think you've still got clearance on that. I was thinking that might be an option, because that cork gasket, it's a stupid idea. It's such a big gasket, and the chances of it sealing are pretty slim. I think some people have talked about a silicone one, so I might have to look into that, but not the end of the world. A few drips here and there I'm not too bothered about, really. If it's a major leak, I'll have to sort it, but if there's a few drips now and again and I wipe them off and, you know, a few days they come back, I'm not too bothered. I just want to enjoy driving it. Okay, I shall see you next time. Like I say, hopefully we'll be running beginning of mid-weekend or beginning of next week. We should be running. And I've decided I'm not going to put the injectors in the ports. I'm going to connect the injectors up and put them in jars, and then turn it on, and then try and adjust the mixture so it doesn't spray, which is how it's meant to do. You're meant to sort of adjust it so it doesn't spray at all, and then richen it up until you get a bit of a spray out of the injectors. So I'll, you know, I think I'll try and adjust it like that, because like before there was quite a big spray coming out that injector when the ignition was on, more than needed, you know, almost like when you'd press it halfway down, that kind of force. So it's probably the pressure regulator as well in the metering head, but I'm going to do it, put them all in jars, because I don't want to keep flooding the engine with fuel. And then if there's a problem and it's still doing it, then I've got to look at something else in the system that's causing the excess pressure. But I have purchased a pressure gauge now, so I can put a pressure gauge on once all that's done, and check what the pressure, the cold pressure is. And if it's way high, then I know I've got to look at the regulator, or there's another, they call it a damper valve, and I think the regulator really is in the metering head. I know the warm-up regulator changes it a bit, but I think there's a damper valve, which some people call a regulator, but apparently it's just to dampen the pulsation of the pump. That's what I've read up. But the pressure adjustment is on the actual metering head where the adjuster is, and you can put thicker or thinner washers, move it in and out sort of when you tighten it up, and that adjusts the pressure. So that's what I'm going to do, because I don't want to keep flooding it, and then I can see that they're all pumping and they're all, you know, if it's sorry, my language, if it's flooding loads of fuel out as soon as I turn the ignition on and I can't stop it by adjusting the mixture, then at least I know I've got further problems and I'm not filling the engine with fuel again, which don't do it any good. It's had a good clean out now, because it's had 2 litres of fucking fuel through it while I've been running it about. I don't think it's done any harm, because it's all brand new, and I put 2050 oil in it anyway. Right, I'll see you next time.